picture a 64-year-old woman. She's sitting behind a drum kit, absolutely jamming out to heavy metal. She's quoting manga to reporters.
High-fiving the president of South Korea after a K-pop session.
Yes. And she just pulled off one of the biggest political gambles in modern Japanese history.
We are, of course, talking about Sanae Takaichi and the aftermath of the February 8, 2026 general election in Japan.
And let's be clear, this wasn't just a win. This was a landslide. We're talking about a victory that essentially saved her party from what looked like total collapse just a few months ago.
We need to understand how a party that was, writing its own obituary last summer managed to secure a supermajority.
And what that actually means.
Exactly. What it means for the global balance of power, for the economy, and for the future of Japan's pacifist constitution.
We've got a massive stack of sources to get through, detailed notes on the results, reports on the opposition's absolute meltdown, and analysis of Takaichi's immediate policy shifts. So let's get into it.
It's a fascinating case study. You've got this personality cult on one side, and then cold, hard structural power on the other.
To really get the magnitude of this win, we have to understand the hole they were in. So take us back to last summer. The Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, they've basically ruled Japan since 1955, but they were in trouble.
Oh, trouble's putting it lightly. They were in a death spiral. I mean, the LDP was plagued by these massive slush fund scandals.
Right, the off-the-books cash.
Exactly. Factions were misreporting fundraising income, creating these secret cash piles.
Yeah.
And in a culture that values propriety and process so highly, this was just toxic. The public was furious.
And the previous PM had to resign.
In disgrace, yeah. And they were losing local elections left and right. The dynasty looked like it was finally crumbling.
It felt like the end of an era.
It certainly looked that way. The smart money was that the LDP was heading for a historic defeat. And then in October, in comes Sanae Takaichi, first woman to ever serve as Japan's prime minister.
And immediately, the whole vibe just shifts. So she isn't a female version of the old guard. She's something else entirely. Our sources describe her style as having Trumpian flourishes, but, adapted. What does that actually look like?
It's about bypassing the filters. Usually, Japanese politicians speak in what's called Nagatacho dialect. It's this dense, vague bureaucracy.
Impenetrable.
Completely. It's designed to avoid saying anything definitive. Takaichi, she just speaks plainly. She connects with voters who usually ignore politics, especially young people, by being unapologetically herself.
I loved the details on this in the research. It's not just kissing babies. She raves about the Hanshin Tigers baseball team. She talks about listening to the hard rock band Bees. She even talks openly about how stressful it is to pick out her outfits for, global summits.
It creates this sense of intimacy. It's a strategy of, let's call it, curated authenticity. She frames herself not as some untouchable elite, but as a relatable person who just happens to be running the country.
And there was that one moment that just captured it perfectly. That post on X, formerly Twitter, back in January. It went completely viral.
Oh, that post is the perfect case study. It was over 1,000 characters long, viewed 26 million times, and the genius of it was the juxtaposition.
Right. In the same paragraph, she's talking about high-stakes calls with President Trump, dealing with North Korean missile threats.
And then she pivots.
Immediately pivots to complaining about unpacking boxes at her new residence and cooking dinner for her husband.
It's this almost superwoman narrative. I am saving the world, but I also have to do the dishes. It disarms her critics. But, and we have to be clear, underneath all the pop culture stuff, she is a disciple of the late Shinzo Abe.
A veteran conservative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She's taken his conservative ideology and wrapped it in a much more consumable, pop culture-friendly package.
So she rides this wave of popularity into office in October. She's got the vibes, the viral tweets, but then she does something that seems, incredibly risky. She dissolves the lower house on January 23rd.
And calls an election for February 8th.
That's 16 days. I can't even plan a vacation in 16 days.
It is the shortest campaign interval since World War II. And it wasn't just short. It was functionally almost impossible for the bureaucracy to handle.
I read that it was so rushed, local authorities didn't even have time to print the voting cards.
That's right. In Japan, you get a notification card in the mail telling you where to vote. It's part of the ritual. Many municipalities just couldn't get them out in time. Polling stations were scrambling. It was administrative chaos.
So did the voters punish her for that? I mean, usually if you inconvenience the public in Japan, you pay a price.
Well, the polls actually showed the public disliked the rushed election. They thought it was cynical. They knew what she was doing. But, and this is the key paradox, they voted for her anyway.
Why, if they were annoyed, why give her a landslide?
because of the surprise effect.
Okay.
By calling the election so quickly, she caught the opposition completely off guard. We're talking about the Centrist Reform Alliance, or CRA.
This was the merger of the Constitutional Democratic Party and Comito, right? They were supposed to be the LDP killers.
That was the plan, a united front to take down the scandal-ridden LDP. But mergers take time. You have to align policies, merge donor lists, figure out branding.
And she didn't give them that time.
She hit the gas so hard they couldn't coordinate. They struggled with funding, couldn't vet candidates fast enough. They just didn't look like a government in waiting.
It's like trying to build an airplane while you're already falling out of the sky.
That is the perfect analogy. And they crashed. The numbers are just brutal. They went from 167 seats down to 49.
49, that's not a defeat, that's an extinction event.
Total demolition. Their leaders, Yoshihiko Noda and Tetsuo Saito, had to resign immediately. The public looked at this disorganized mess and then looked at the rockstar prime minister, and I think the choice was made for them.
Even if they were annoyed by the rush?
Even then, they voted for what looked like stability.
So let's look at the result. The LDP wins 316 of the 465 seats.
And that is the magic number. That's a supermajority, 2/3 of the House.
I want to pause on that term, supermajority. We hear it a lot, but in the Japanese system, why does that specific threshold matter so much?
This is crucial for understanding what comes next. So in the Japanese diet, you have two chambers, the lower house and the upper house. Usually you need both to agree to pass a law.
Okay.
But if the lower house has a 2/3 majority, they can override the upper house if a bill gets rejected there. It essentially gives Takaichi a checkmate button for standard legislation.
So if the upper house says no, she can just go back to the lower house and say, too bad, we're doing it anyway.
Exactly. And on top of that, they have a coalition partner, the Japan Innovation Party. You add their seats in.
And the ruling coalition controls, what, 75% of the House?
75%. It is unprecedented dominance.
So Takaichi has the power. She has the mandate. The question is, what is she going to do with it? She's claiming this is a mandate for hardline policies.
This is where the cool aunt image starts to merge with a very strict nationalist agenda. The vibes are pop culture, but the policy is pure conservatism.
Let's talk about the Japan first aspect. Japan has been so resistant to immigration, but it felt like that was changing out of necessity. Labor shortages and all that. Is she reversing course?
She's pivoting hard. She sensed a rising wave of anti-foreigner sentiment, and she tapped right into it. She's proposing mandatory Japanese language classes for anyone seeking residency.
Which sounds reasonable on the surface, but I'm guessing the devil is in the details.
Exactly. It can act as a gatekeeper. If the bar is set too high, it's just a way to deny residency. But she's going further. She wants to force buyers of real estate to disclose their nationality.
There's that fear of foreign entities buying up land.
A widespread fear, yeah. And she's also promised much stricter visa enforcement. It's a clear signal.
And even tourism isn't safe. I mean, Japan loves tourism dollars.
They love the dollars, but they're tired of the crowds.
Yeah.
If you've been to Kyoto or Tokyo recently, you know it's packed. So the government wants to disperse tourists, push people out of the main hubs into the countryside.
It's a message that says, we want your money, but maybe not all of you, all in the same place.
Pretty much.
Now, for the average voter, usually the economy is issue number one. And the Japanese economy isn't exactly roaring. Inflation is around 3%.
Which, for a global listener, might sound low. But for Japan, which has had deflation or stagnation for decades, 3% is a shock to the system. Prices are rising, wages aren't keeping up.
So usually the ruling party gets punished for that. How did she dodge that bullet?
Takaichi has this Teflon factor. Nothing sticks to her. And honestly, her handling of the economy during the campaign was, well, let's call it chaotic.
I found the tax flip-flop just amazing. Walk us through that.
Okay, so she initially supported cutting the consumption tax on food. Popular move, right? Then, once she's PM, she says, oh, actually, it's too inconvenient for shop owners to change their cash registers. So she scraps it.
The cash register inconvenience defense? I mean...
It sounds absurd. But then, during the election, she realizes people are angry, so she pivots again and says, okay, we'll discuss it in a citizens' assembly.
Which is code for, we'll talk about it forever and do nothing.
Precisely. It was vague, it was contradictory, but it worked because the opposition was just too weak to capitalize on it. She confused the issue enough to survive.
What about her comments on the yen? That seemed to backfire a bit.
A bit, yeah. She called a weak yen an opportunity for exporters. Which is true for, Toyota. But for the average person buying imported food or energy, a weak yen is a disaster. She had to walk that back on X immediately. But again, voters forgave her.
So she's secure at home. Now she turns to the world stage. And it's getting messy.
It is. She has to navigate relations with the United States, specifically the Trump administration.
And we know Trump likes a deal.
He does. The sources indicate there is immense pressure on Japan to increase military spending. And get this, there's talk of a demand for Japan to invest $550 billion in American projects.
$550 billion. That is a staggering amount of money.
It's a massive ask. But Takaichi and the LDP, they align with the U.S. on conservative security agendas, so they are likely to play ball to keep that alliance strong. They need the U.S.
Because of China.
Because of China. This is the real friction point. Takaichi is a hawk, a serious hawk. She stated clearly that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could provoke a Japanese military response.
That's a huge statement. Usually Japanese leaders are masters of ambiguity on Taiwan. They're concerned, but they won't say intervention.
Exactly. Strategic ambiguity has been the policy for decades. By saying the quiet part out loud, she made Beijing furious. They demanded retractions, urging Japan to follow the path of peaceful development.
But she's not backing down.
Not at all. She feels this election validates her tough stance. She thinks the public is ready for a more assertive Japan.
Which brings us to the holy grail of Japanese conservative politics, the Constitution.
Article 9, the famous pacifist clause that renounces war and the maintenance of military forces.
Even though they have the self-defense forces, which looks like a military, acts like a military.
Right, but it operates in this legal gray area. Takaichi wants to revise the Constitution to formally recognize the SDF as a military. This has been the dream of the LDP for decades.
Normalizing Japan as a nation that can project power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with a supermajority in the lower house, the path seems clear, right? She can just push the button.
I feel a butt coming.
Here's the plot twist. This is the detail that really matters most. She has the supermajority in the lower house.
Oh, okay.
But to change the Constitution, the bar is much higher. You need a two-thirds majority in both houses of the Diet, followed by a national referendum.
And the upper house.
The LDP is currently a minority in the upper house. They lost big there in previous elections.
Wait, even with this historic landslide supermajority victory, she's actually stuck.
On this specific issue, yes. She is institutionally constrained. She cannot force a constitutional amendment through until she wins the upper house elections.
And when are those?
Not until 2028.
Oh, wow. So the clock is ticking. She has to maintain this rock star popularity, keep the coalition together, and shield herself from inflation anger for another 2 full years before she can even try for her ultimate goal.
That is the gamble. She can pass budgets. She can pass domestic laws. She can override the upper house on standard issues. But for the constitutional revision, the thing she cares about most, she has to wait. And in politics, 2 years is a lifetime.
Especially with inflation at 3%.
Precisely. If the surprise effect wears off, if the opposition finally gets its act together, or if the economy dips further, that upper house victory in 2028 is not guaranteed.
So what does this all mean for us? For you, the listener, trying to make sense of the world?
It means we are seeing a shift in the operating system of Japanese democracy. We're seeing a leader who uses pop culture to secure a mandate for very serious, very hardline nationalism. It's a paradox.
The cool drummer who wants to remilitarize the country.
Right, and she has shattered the opposition. The LDP has rebounded from near death to single-party dominance. The checks and balances of a strong opposition party are, for now, gone.
It really is a fascinating moment. It feels like Japan is waking up from a long political slumber, but it's waking up in a very different mood.
A more aggressive, more nationalist, and more unpredictable mood.
It's interesting because usually we think of populism as tearing institutions down, but here she's using populism to reinforce the oldest institution in Japan, the LDP.
That's a brilliant way to put it, using modern tools to restore the old order. But whether the voters will stay with her when the cool factor wears off, that is the billion-yen question.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. Takaichi has the numbers. She has the popularity. She has the ambition to be a transformative figure like her mentor, Abe. But with that upper house blocked until 2028 and prices rising at the grocery store, will this massive mandate actually translate into the changes she craves? Or was this election just a sugar rush, a moment of excitement that will fade when the reality of governing sets in?
It's the difference between winning a sprint and winning a marathon. She just won the sprint of her life. Now the marathon begins.
And we'll be watching.